Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 2. Text 1. Sanjaya Uvacha. Tam Tatha Kripaya Vistam. Ashru Purna Kuleksanam. Isidantam Idam Bhakyam. Uvacha Madhusudanaha.
Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words.
Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Utastva Kashmalamidam. Vishame Samapastitam. Anarya Justamasvargyam. Akirti Karamarjuna.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy.
Text 3. Klaipyam Ashmagamah Partha. Naitatvaya Upadapadaye. Sudram Hridaya Daubaryam. Tyakto Visha Parantapa.
O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading importance. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy.
Text 4. Arjuna Uvacha. Katham Bhishmamaham Sankhya. Dronam Chamadusadana. Isubi Pratyotsami. Ojarhav Arisudana.
Arjun said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship?
Text 5. Guru Nahatva Himahanubhavan. Shreyo Bhoktum Bhaikshyamapi Haloke. Atvartakamam Stukuru Nihaiva. Unji Abogan Rudira Pradikan.
It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even through desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood.
Text 6. Nachai Tadvidma Kataranno Gariyo. Yadva Jayema Yadipano Jayeyuhu. Jane Vahatva Najiji Vishamas. Eva Stita Pramukadara Darastraha.
Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we could not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield.
Text 7. Karpana doso pahata svabhavaha. Ruchami tvam dharma samudhachetaha. Yachreyasyanmi sitam bruhitan me. Sisyasteham sadimam tvam prapannam.
Now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of the miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
Text 8. Nahi prapashyami mama panudiyat. Yat chokamucho sanamindriyanam. Avapapuma fasapat namridam. Rajam Suranam Apichadipatyam.
I can find no means to drive away this grief which is driving up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven.
Text 9. Sanjaya Uvacha Evamukta Krishikesham Udakesha Haparantapaha Nayotya iti Govindam Uktvatus Nimbabuvaha.
Sanjay said, having spoken thus, Arjun, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent.
Text 10. Tamuvacha Hrikeshaha Prahasan Iva Bharata Senayorupayor Madhye Vishidantam Idam Vachaha.
O descendant of Bharat, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjun.
Text 11. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan an Vashochastvam Praidna Vadamscha Bhasase Gata Sumscha Nanu Sochanti Panditaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead.
Text 12. Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam ne me janadhipaha nachaivana biti samyah sarve vayamatah param.
Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
Text 13. Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir virastatra namuhyati.
As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes on to another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
Text 14. Matra sparshastu kanteya sitosna sukha dukhadaha agama panyo nityas samstitiksas bharata.
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
Text 15. Yam hina vyathayantyete purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrtatvaya kalpate.
O best among men, Arjun, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
Text 16. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi darstontas, anayos-tattvadarshibhiha.
Those who are the seers of truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
Text 17. Avinashi tu tadvidhi, yena sarvamidam tatam, vinashama vyayasya na kaschit kartumarhati.
That which pervades the entire body, you should know how to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
Text 18. Antavanta ime deha nitya shoktah shaririniha anashino prameyasya tasmat yudha svabharata.
The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharat.
Text 19. Jaenam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhautau na vijanito nayam hanti nahanyate.
Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, or nor he who thinks is slain is in knowledge. For all self-slays, not nor is slain.
Text 20. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam putva bhavitavana bhuyaha ajonita nityasas svatoyam purano nahanyate hanyanema sarire.
For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
Text 21. Vedavina sinam nityam jaenam ajamavyayam katham sapurusha partha kam gatayati hantikam.
O Parth, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill?
Text 22. Pasam sijirnani yata vihaya navani girhnati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi.
As a person puts on new garments, giving up the old ones, the soul similarly accepts the new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
Text 23. Nainam chindati shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha.
The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind.
Text 24. Achedyoyam adayoyam, akledyo shosya evacha, nitya sarvagata stanur, achaloyam sanatanaha.
This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can neither be burnt or dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna Mataji and Naina Mataji. It was well done. Very nice recitation. So welcome, dear devotees, to today's session. If anyone is joining you for the first time, warm welcome to you to this chat session. My name is Vrindavan Chandra, and I'm one of the facilitators. So today we'll be continuing with chapter number 2, entitled The Contents of the Gita Summarized. And we will be studying and discussing text number 8 in more detail. So we're currently in the section where Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. So this is a very important section for us. One of the first aspects of spiritual progress is to surrender. And through Arjuna's own situation, his own example, we get very important insights and instructions on how we should surrender. So very important, very relevant sections we're studying at the moment. So as normal, we will recite the Mangala Charanam prayers. Please join in behind muted mics. And it's page number 1 in our text. Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachari Shatari Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So text number 8. Nahi papasyami mama panujyad yachokam uchosanam indriyanam. Now the meter is not right. Nahi prapasyami mama panuyadat yachokam uchosanam indriyanam. Avyapya bhuvav asapnam asaptanam ridham rajam suranam apicha dipatyam. Synonyms: na, do not; he, certainly; prapasyami, I see; mama, my; apanudyat, can drive away; yet, that which; shokam, lamentation; uchosanam, drying up; indriyanam, of the senses; avapya, achieving; bhomo, on the earth; asapatnam, without rival; ridham, prosperous; rajyam, kingdom; suranam, of the demigods; api, even; cha, also; adipathyam, supremacy. Translation: I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth, with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. Put by Srila Prabhupada. Although Arjuna was putting forward so many arguments based on knowledge of the principles of religion and moral codes, it appears that he was unable to solve his real problem without the help of the spiritual master, Lord Sri Krishna. He could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems, which were drying up his whole existence. And it was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. Academic knowledge, scholarship, high position are all useless in solving the problems of life. Help can be given only by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna conscious is the bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. Lord Chaitanya said that one who is a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is the real spiritual master. Kiba vipra kiba nashi sudra kenainaya ye Krishna tattvaveta say guru haya. It does not matter whether a person is a vipra, learned scholar in Vedic wisdom, or is born in a lower family, or is in the renounced order of life. If he is a master in the science of Krishna, he is the perfect and bona fide spiritual master. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8:128. So without being a spiritual master in the science of Krishna consciousness, no one is a bona fide spiritual master. It is also said in the Vedic literatures, Sat Karma Nipuno Vipro, Mantra Tantra Vishar Radha, Avaishnavo Gurur Nasyad, Vaishnavaha Swapacho Guru. A scholarly Brahmana, expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava, or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. But a person born in a family of a lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava or Krishna conscious. This is from the Padma Purana. The problems of material existence, birth, old age, disease, and death, cannot be counteracted by accumulation of wealth and economic development. In many parts of the world, there are states which are replete with all facilities of life, which are full of wealth and economically developed. Yet the problems of material existence are still present. They are seeking peace in different ways, but they can achieve real peace only if they consult Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which constitutes the science of Krishna, through the bona fide representative of Krishna, the man in Krishna consciousness. If economic development and material comforts could drive away one's lamentations for family, social, national, and international inebriaties, then Arjuna would not have said that even an unrivaled kingdom on earth or supremacy like that of the demigods in the heavenly planets would be unable to drive away his lamentations. He sought, therefore, refuge in Krishna consciousness, and that is the right path for peace and harmony. Economic development or supremacy over the world can be finished at any moment by the catalysms of material nature. Even elevation into a higher planetary situation, as men are now seeking on the moon planet, can also be finished at one stroke. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Shene punye marcha lokam vishanti. When the results of pious activities are finished, one falls down again from the peak of happiness to the lowest status of life. Many politicians of the world have fallen down in this way. Such downfalls only constitute more causes for lamentation. Therefore, if we want to curb lamentation for good, then we have to take shelter of Krishna, as Arjuna is seeking to do. So Arjuna asked Krishna to solve his problem, definitely, and that is the way of Krishna consciousness. So the verse again, this is Arjuna speaking. I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth, with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. So, what a wonderful verse. And the purport of Srila Prabhupada is full of insights. So we'll first make a quick summary of the key points in the purport. And then we will try to discuss a bit more on each of those points. Although there's not much we can do in 15 minutes, let's see what we can discuss. The first point Prabhupada makes is academic knowledge, scholarship, and position are useless in solving material perplexities or problems in life. So this is like the key point Arjuna is making in this verse. He's making the point that in this condition, and yesterday we discussed what is his condition. His condition is actually a very severe condition, and we get insights into how powerful that condition is. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and the Swabhav, the intrinsic nature of a Kshatriya is that if he is challenged for a fight, it is his nature of a Kshatriya never to decline such a challenge. And secondly, it is a duty of a Kshatriya never to decline a challenge or to decline his duty to fight for Dharma. But this Swadharma of the living entities, it's very deep-rooted. And just to give you an idea of Arjuna's situation, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's the story of Dhruva. Dhruva was a small boy, only 5 years old. And he was insulted by his stepmother, Suruchi, that he could not sit in the lap of his father because he was not born of her womb. He was born of Suniti's womb, who was less favored by the king. And Dhruva was insulted. And although he was only 5 years old, he took the insult very, very seriously. And he went into his mother in a distraught mood. And his mother told him, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead can help you. And where can I find the Supreme Personality of Godhead? In the forest. So the small boy, he set out for the forest. And the Lord, seeing a situation, sent Narad Muni. And Narad Muni came and spoke to Dhruva. He said, you're just a small boy. You're just a small boy. The forest is so dangerous. It's the nature of children to become angry. But children very quickly, they forget. We all have experience of that. Children, they can forget very easily. So you're a child, you'll forget this thing and it'll go away. So there's no need for any drastic action like going into the forest. But Dhruva said, no, you don't understand. I am a Kshatriya. For a Kshatriya, dishonor is worse than death. Although what you say me is true in all sense, it's my nature to take such an insult very seriously. And although you may consider me only a 5-year-old boy, you may advise me that the forests are very dangerous. You may advise me in so many ways, but my Kshatriya spirit takes such insult very seriously. There's another story of once a sadhu. He was crossing a river. And while he was crossing the river, he saw a scorpion in the river. The scorpion was struggling, was about to drown. And the sadhu, feeling compassion for all living entities, he picked up the scorpion. And the moment he picked up the scorpion, what happened? The scorpion stung him. And when it stung him, he quickly dropped the scorpion back in the water. And then he saw the scorpion struggling. And then he picked up the scorpion again because he couldn't see it suffer, like, and the scorpion stung him again. And this happened a few times till they reached the other side of the river. And when they reached the other side of the river, there was a hunter. And the hunter approached the sadhu and he said, I've been watching what's going on. You've been picking the scorpion up and it's been stinging you. But then you would pick it up again. And this was going on. Can you explain it? Doesn't seem logical to me. And then the sadhu said, it's the nature of the scorpion to sting. And it's the nature of a brahmana or a saintly person to show compassion. Just like the scorpion, it's ruled by its nature. In the same way, I'm ruled by my nature. This is called swabhava. So Arjuna's swabhava was to be a Kshatriya. And Kshatriya, as we know, they can never refuse a fight. But yeah, Arjuna was going against his nature. And he realized his mistake. He realized his mistake that he was going against his nature. But this perplexity, Prabhupada says, was so strong. That which is so strong in our swabhava, our nature. This force was so powerful that he made even Arjuna act against his nature. And we find out from the verses in the purport what was behind such a force. It was material attachments. Material attachments are so strong that even it was overcoming the inherent nature of Arjuna. And as we were reading in that verse, such a powerful force, such powerful perplexities in life. No amount of academic knowledge, no amount of scholarship, PhD, no amount of position can help one overcome such a situation. How does one in such a situation overcome? It is only by Krishna or his representative. The Srimad Bhagavatam, it compares the living entity situation in the material world like someone who is tied with a very thick rope. Such a rope, when one pours water over such a rope, it becomes even more difficult to entangle. Practically one cannot get out of it. But someone with a very sharp sword can cut through that rope. and that is the spiritual master. No person is, the point that Arjuna is making in this verse is very, very important. There is nothing, there is nobody, there is no situation in this material world that can get us out of this perplexity of material attachment, of birth, old age, disease, and death, but the words of the Lord and his representative, his spiritual master, the spiritual master. Then Prabhupada raises the question and gives a beautiful explanation of who is a bona fide spiritual master. And Prabhupada, he gives a definition and he gives two references. And what is the definition of the spiritual master? The first definition is, Prabhupada says, one who is 100% Krishna conscious. 100% Krishna conscious. And what does it mean to be 100% Krishna conscious? It means to be completely and fully dedicated to the service of the Lord and his own spiritual master. That is what 100% Krishna consciousness means. Conscious. And it is only such a person who can solve the problems of life. And then Prabhupada gives two references, and it's very interesting, the references that Prabhupada has chosen. There is a tendency that people normally, and it was very common in the 50s, well, in the 60s, when there was the counterculture in America. Somehow they understood that in spiritual life, we need a guru, we need a spiritual master. And people had this stereotypical idea of what a spiritual master was. He had long hair, he had a long beard, and he was like a yogi. This is a misconception. This is a misconception about who a spiritual master is. Who is really a spiritual master? Hiba Vipra. One who understands the science of Krishna consciousness is a spiritual master. And it doesn't matter from which social order he comes from. Maybe not so much about Western seekers, but among Indians. Even in Prabhupada ISKCON, there is this conception, my guru has to be an Indian guru. My guru has to come from a Brahmin family. That, Prabhupada says, is not the qualification. That is not the verdict, the opinion, the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. He gave the qualification of who is a guru. The only qualification is that he needs to understand the science of Krishna, whether he comes from a Shudra background. No matter what background he comes, if he knows or she knows the science of Krishna consciousness, that person is fit to be a spiritual master. And then Prabhupada goes on to say something even further. He clarifies it, and he quotes from the Padma Purana. Only a Vaishnava can become a bona fide spiritual master. Now, what does it mean? Today, there are many people who are very learned Brahmanas. They are very qualified in the Vedic science, but they are not devotees of Krishna. Only one who is a devotee of Krishna is really qualified, because the highest conclusion of the Vedic literatures is that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. And we are servant of Krishna. And we should perform devotional service. So one who has not become a devotee of Krishna, one who has not become a Vaishnava, means that they have not understood what is the conclusion of the Vedas. And if one has not understood the conclusion of the Vedas, how can they impart knowledge onto us? They can't. They just can't. So these are two very, very important points. That a spiritual master's qualification is not based on anything external. The main qualification is that they must be a Vaishnava and they must be a master of the science of Krishna consciousness. And lastly, Arjuna makes the point, the very, very important point here, that no amount of economic development, no amount of material adjustment can save one, can take on. And Prabhupada talks about opulent countries. There are many countries, they are very opulent, but we still see that the main problems, which is birth, old age, disease, and death, is still prevalent. The example is given of a fly in a spider's web. Our situation is like that. The fly can try to adjust any position it can in the web. Any position, it can go front, go back, go left, go right, somersault. But the net result is the spider only becomes more and more entangled. The fly becomes only more and more entangled in the spider's web. So in the same way, the living entity is caught up by the material nature. No amount of material means, no amount of material adjustment, no amount of economic development will help us to come out. Only if another person comes and splits the spider's web, untangles the web, then the fly can become free. The fly cannot do it by its own. So our position is like that. Our position is like that. We cannot come out of the material world. It's only by the mercy of Krishna and the Guru. Yesterday I was making the point, I was quoting some verse, where he said that the living entity is such a tiny particle. By its own self, this tiny particle cannot know how to extricate itself from the material world. It cannot understand the absolute truth. But the Guru is heavy with knowledge, can extricate the living entity. And this is the sum and substance of this verse. This is the point that Arjuna is making. He has come to this realization. There is only one way out for him from the situation he finds himself, from this difficult situation, and that is to take shelter of a Guru. And unless we come to this point, as long as we think, oh, my friends in the temple, they're all accepting a Guru, I should do it, or else I look like the odd one out. Bhagavad Gita says we should accept a Guru. Okay, the Vedic literature says, so I should find a Guru, I should have a Guru. No. More importantly, we should understand the reason for approaching a Guru is that I'm in a terrible situation. I just can't come out of the situation. I'm helpless. And only the Guru has the power to free me from. If we have that type of mentality, that type of attitude, then we can enter into a relationship with the Guru in the right frame of mind. And not only that, only with that mentality do we become proper recipients. Therefore, he said, sometimes he said, Krishna, when he sees someone that's got some sincerity, Krishna will will put that person in different situations where this realization becomes more and more prominent. So we should never take adversities and difficulties in life. We should embrace them in one sense because they help us in our spiritual life. So it's 8:31. I think it's the appropriate time to stop here. Are there any questions or comments that anyone has about today's verse, or any reflections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, I'm Mataji.
Thank you for a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Based on the scorpion and the sage's story that you just shared with us, so if it is people's inherent nature to do certain things, how many times do we give them the benefit of doubt, especially if it is a negative quality that they're exhibiting? Or do we just accept it as their inherent quality and we just keep giving them the benefit of doubt?
That's what the Lord advises in the Bhagavatam. The Lord says, whenever we see someone acting in a way that's even very frustrating to us, we should simply see that this person is acting out of their own nature. They're acting of their own nature, and seeing it in that way, we should not become too caught up in the situation. And Krishna says, if we do become too caught up in the situation, then we fall in the same trap as that person.
Yes.
So the instruction that the Lord gives in the Bhagavatam is in all situations, when we see someone acting in a way that is very contrary to Dharma, or maybe very contrary to the way we expect them to act. In the first instance, we should see that this person is simply acting due to their swabhava, their inherent nature. They're being forced to act. So the answer to your question, Emma Mataji, according to the Lord, it's difficult, it's not always easy, but that's the advice that Krishna gives.
Okay, right. Thank you, Prabhu. So we keep giving them the benefit of doubt, basically,
Yes.
or walk away from it. Yes.
Yes.
Can I ask one more question on perplexity?
Yes,
Please?
sure.
It's okay. Yesterday you mentioned that when somebody's perplexed and you're in the mood that you want to get out of this world and you need a spiritual master to come out of it. But then there's the other thought was that there is, we've been given this human birth and we want to stay here and continue preaching and continue serving our Guru Maharaj. How does that mood differ from the mood where we are perplexed and we want to get out of this material world?
Oh, that's the lowest stage, the perplexity. When one advances in Krishna consciousness, then that perplexity goes away. And when one becomes situated on the platform of devotional service, then the only preoccupation of the devotee is, how can I give pleasure to Krishna? How can I give pleasure to the Guru? And, the devotees, they don't worry about the material world. Although we see in the Bhagavatam, we see the example of Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami, he was so afraid to come out of the womb of his mother. And he was in the mood that if he came out, he was at great risk of falling captive to the material nature again. And the only time he agreed to come out, when Krishna himself came and told him that, don't worry, I will protect you. So the devotees who are pure devotees, are fully surrendered to Krishna, they have this inherent faith, right? If I am surrendered to Krishna, my interests are always best represented by Krishna. So whether I stay in the material world or I am anywhere else, okay, I am always protected. I am always protected. And as long as I'm protected, it doesn't really matter. All that matters to me is pleasure and service to Krishna. If it gives pleasure to the Guru, if it gives pleasure to Krishna, that I come back to the material world and serve the mission of Krishna, then that's fine. That's fine.
Yes.
So the pure devotees, they are no longer in the perplexed situation. They're no longer fearful of the material world. They see the material world as part of Krishna's energy. So that's how we reconcile that situation. It's a higher level of consciousness, higher level.
Yes, so we continue being perplexed, but pure devotees don't get perplexed. Yes.
Yeah, and if we follow the path, Emma Mataji, we'll come to the point. Although Prabhupada said that a disciple should always be a fool in front of the spiritual master. A disciple, today my wife Vrindavan was telling me about, she's been reading my Guru Maharaj's book. And once my Guru Maharaj was telling Prabhupada that Prabhupada, sometimes we feel that we fall into Maya. What should we do? And Prabhupada said, sometimes? You are always in Maya. You're always in Maya. So the disciple's mood is that I am in Maya. Like once, Srila Prabhupada, he was saying in his lecture, I will never fall down. I will never fall down. It actually happened at the manor. And then after that, the class, he was in front of the deities and he was praying. And one disciple was bold enough to go to Srila Prabhupada and ask him, Srila Prabhupada, what were you praying to Radha Gokulananda for? Prabhupada said, I was praying to them that I will never fall down. And then the disciple said, but Prabhupada, you just said in the lecture that you will never fall down. And Prabhupada said, yes, because I'm always praying to Krishna that I must not fall down, I will never fall down. So, yeah.
Very nice. Yes.
A disciple, by the mercy of Guru, he comes out of perplexities. But due to his humility, he always feels that he's still perplexed.
Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very nice. Thank you.
Krishna. Any other questions? Oh, Chetnamati, you have got your hand up for so long. Sorry.
Hi. Oh, that's okay. I just have a quick question, and maybe the rest already have an answer to this. But this purport refers to Vedic literature. So there is, I think, I might be wrong, but I think there is Vedas, there is Shastras, and there is Puranas. So are they all just different names for the same thing, and or is there a difference? And is there a brief summary of what these are?
I'll give you a very brief summary. So Vedic literature has two divisions. One is called Shruti and one is called Smriti. Shruti is mother and Smriti is like sister. So the original Vedas is called Shruti. It was written down, we have one Veda, then it was broken up into four, and each of the Vedas has many divisions, the Aranyakas, the Samhitas, the Upanishads, and so on. They were all compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. Vyas also at some point in time, he composed what is called the Smriti literatures, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on. And then, because it was becoming more and more difficult as time progressed for people to remember and understand the Vedas, he summarized or he compressed the Vedas into what is called sutras. And then we have what is called the Vedanta Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. But having compiled the Vedanta Sutra, which is very, very difficult to understand, Vyasadeva was feeling completely, once he was feeling that he had not done his duty. Although he had given so many literatures, he had not given the essence of all Vedic literatures. And in that perplexed condition, his guru came to him Narad Muni. And his guru told him, you have written so many Vedic literatures. You wrote the 4 Vedas, then you wrote the, the Itihasas and so many supplementary literatures. But the fact of the matter remains, if anybody reads all of your books and you ask them, what is the ultimate goal of all spiritual life? They will struggle to answer you. And if someone asks you, what is the definitive process to reach the ultimate goal? They will be struggle to answer if they read your books, because you have written so many different paths, the path of Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha, that anybody who reads the Vedic literatures, they'll become confused. And that's when Veda Vyas, he had like this eureka moment, that he is the literary incarnation, but he has not given the essence of all spiritual life, all Vedic knowledge. And that's when he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is known as the fruit of the Vedic literature tree. What is the most important part of a tree? What is the most important function of a tree? Is to give the fruit. It is in the fruit where we find all the juice, all the flavor, all the sweetness. So the Vedic literature, the juice, the essence, the sweetness, the culmination of all knowledge is Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, you see in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions 2 books, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is spoken directly by Krishna. Therefore, it is considered to be the highest Shruti. And Srimad Bhagavatam is written by the literary incarnation of Krishna, Veda Vyas, and it is the essence, the culmination. So if anyone reads these 2 books, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they will get the essence of all Vedic knowledge. Not only the essence, the fruit, the juiciest, the sweetest part of all Vedic literature. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave the world, and in one sense, the extension of the Srimad Bhagavatam is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
Do you have Srimad Bhagavatam, Mataji?
No, I don't have that one. I only have the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, I would strongly advise you to get a set of Bhagavatam, and you can contact me if you're interested in getting a set.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation.
Hare Krishna. Smita Mataji, you've unmuted yourself. Have you got a question or a comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I wanted to know what is Garud Puran?
There are 18 Puranas. These Puranas, they are catering for different sections of people. Certain Puranas are focused for those in the mode of ignorance, certain are focused in the mode of passion, and certain are focused on people in the mode of goodness. So the Garud Purana, I anticipate it would be those 6 Puranas in the mode of goodness. So it is one of the 18 Puranas that have been given by Srila Vyasadeva. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Puranas. If you want to read Garud Purana and extract the essence, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll also find the same essence in that Srimad Bhagavatam. I won't be able to tell you more than that because I've personally not read the Garud Purana.
As far as it's good enough reading Bhagavatam.
Yes, that's what Vedavyas said. You know, you've got the fruit. You don't have to really read anything else. Falguni, Mataji, you've raised your hand. Have you got a question or comment?
Yes, Prabhuji, I think you have explained very well everything, but the question came to my mind. you have mentioned about Upanishad.
Yes.
Can you explain what I understand now what Srimad Bhagavat, what is Bhagavad Gita, and is Upanishad? I'm not too sure about.
Okay. So the Vedas, each Vedas, it has different sections. The Aranyakya, the Upanishads, the Samhitas, and so on. So each Vedas has got sections. So the philosophical section of the Vedas are the Upanishads. And there are 108 Upanishads. So if you look at the Vedas broken up into different sections dealing with different aspects of life, the philosophical section is called the Upanishads.
Right.
Yes. So those are what the Upanishads are. They are the philosophical section of the Vedic literatures.
Okay. And how does that link? Does it have any link with the Srimad Bhagavat or Bhagavad Gita?
Obviously, if we say the philosophical section are in the Upanishads, right? And it was compiled by Veda Vyas. So Veda Vyas, he has taken the essence of all of the Upanishads, all of the philosophy in the 108 Upanishads, and he's given that essence in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right.
So if you can imagine, there's different aspects of philosophy in all of the Upanishads, right? And there are common themes. And if you take all of the essence of that philosophy and you put it in one book, Veda Vyas has put that in Bhagavatam. So when one reads Bhagavatam, you get all of the essential knowledge that you can find in the Upanishads.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions, comments, or reflections? Indira Mataji, you've unmuted yourself.
Yes, I've got a question. You know, you said that there's 4 Vedas.
Yes.
Are they, how are they different to Srimad Bhagavatam then?
So the Vedas, okay, they deal with Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. Artha means economic development. Kama means sense gratification. Moksha means liberation. And Dharma means religiosity, right? So Veda Vyas, when he was feeling very unhappy about what he had written, so his spiritual master told him, you know, the essence of the human form of life is devotional service to Krishna. What is the use of economic development? What is the use of sense gratification? And Dharma without devotional service, what is the use? So the essence of all of those different aspects or purposes are fulfilled in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Kind of, yeah.
Do you want to repeat your question again, Mataji? I just want to make sure I've understood it.
Right. There's 4 Vedas.
4 Vedas, yes.
Yeah. What my question was that the Vedas, are they, what reflection do they have on Srimad Bhagavatam? Is it, if I'm reading Srimad Bhagavatam, does that cover all the Vedas then?
Yes, according to Veda Vyas, the Bhagavatam covers all of the essential knowledge of the Vedas and more, much more. And what is that much more? The much more is the Srimad Bhagavatam describes the personality of Godhead. There's 3 real levels of realization: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The highest realization is Bhagavan. And the Bhagavatam, the bulk of the Bhagavatam is the 10th canto, which is the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Yeah. Have you read Bhagavatam, Mataji?
Well, I've started the canto, the first canto. I'm halfway through.
Okay.
So yeah, and joining this group, I mean, it's my first time I've ever, and I'm really enjoying it because I've read Bhagavad Gita many times, but I feel I've got so much to learn.
Yes, that's true. The more we know, the more we understand how much we don't know.
Mhm,
And yet people who don't know, they think they know everything.
mhm.
But spiritual life is, the more you get into spiritual life, the more you'll understand how much we do not know.
Yes,
So that's
true.
that's the fact that you're realizing how much you don't know means you're really getting into spiritual life nicely now.
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else got any comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu.
Wonderful discourse and lovely answers to all the questions posed. Yes, there is no doubt that Srimad Bhagavatam is the cream of all the Vedic literature, because when Vyasdeva had written all these Vedas and all the Puranas, he wasn't feeling happy. There's something is wrong here. And Narad Muni came and said, this is why you haven't described Krishna in proper detail. This is why you have done it. So please extract everything from all the Vedas and put it in one nice book, glorifying the Lord. And this is what you really nicely said, that Srimad Bhagavatam contains the very essence of everything we need to know from all the Vedas, because otherwise Vedas on their own are perplexing. They might lead you in a different path, not to devotion. But Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to bring up devotion, which is already in the heart. It has to waken up. And you have said it so nicely. All glories to your Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Actually, just like you'll see in the Bhagavad Gita, the first thing that Krishna does to Arjuna, he chastises him. He tells him, you are speaking like a very learned man, but you are grieving for that which is not worthy of grief. When Vedavyas surrendered to Narad Muni, when he was feeling perplexed about why he was not happy, Narad Muni did the same thing. He told him that what you have done is detestable. What you have written is detestable, because you have written so many things, but you have failed to describe the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. So that's the nature of Guru. The Guru shakes us up, wakes us up with heavy cutting words sometimes. So we should not be afraid to be corrected, chastised, and directed by a Guru. Sometimes people are afraid to take Guru. All right, devotees, I'll stop here. Thank you so much for your attention. I've gone over time. It's been really wonderful. You have very nice questions. Thank you for your nice questions. We'll end by Vaishnava Pranam, offering our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, and they have compassion for all of the called and conditioned souls. Vancha kalpa turubhyascha, kripa sindhubhyevacha, patitanam bhavanebhyo. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for nice
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful class. Thank you, Devotee.